You're the Spiderling. Crime-fighting spider. You're Spider-Boy?
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. Most people's favorite superhero, if not in their top 3, since most people's favorite superheroes are either Batman, Superman, or Spider-Man. I grew up with all 3, and I ended up siding with Spider-Man. A lot of people, including myself, like Spider-Man because he isn't a billionaire, genius, philanthropist playboy, or an alien from another planet. He's an ordinary high school kid from Queens.
I helped this lost old Dominican lady. She was really nice and bought me a churro.
I'm just, feel like I could be doing more.
At this point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we have seen the world through the eyes of literal gods, but this is the first time the world has been shown through the eyes of mortals. As this is the youngest version of Spider-Man ever being put on screen, and he isn't introduced at the beginning of this franchise, but introduced in the middle. So Peter Parker is seen as a little worm in the Big Apple called the MCU, a mortal introduced into the universe by a god among men. Spider-Man Homecoming is a film about a Spider-Man who wants to be a hero like his mentor, but is yet to fully grasp and understand what that truly means. So this video will be about exploring the very core character of Spider-Man and the themes surrounding him, and what it truly means to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. The beginning of the movie starts with the title "A Film by Peter Parker," showing that we are seeing the world through Peter's perspective, which makes sense to how grounded the world is in this movie. Peter's worldview is more of childlike wonderment, acting as if he's been invited to the Oscars, but he doesn't know any of the movies that are being nominated. We see the action go down in his perspective. It's not till Peter puts down the camera that we are done seeing previous events through Peter's perspective. Now we are in his perspective. We are in his worldview instead of just seeing it. It is also precisely in that moment we are introduced to the first piece of narrative gasoline to ignite the fire of this film's story. Peter is entrusted with a great power. That great power representing the suit that Tony made for him. And immediately after Tony says this, Peter asks the question,
What, does that mean that I'm an Avenger?
No.
at this point in time, Peter and Tony have 2 different views on who Spider-Man is. Peter thinks Spider-Man is an Avenger, but Tony believes Spider-Man should operate in the gray area where Iron Man doesn't. But Peter doesn't know what this gray area represents yet. So when Tony says he will call when the next mission arises, Peter is left hanging, waiting for Tony's call that Peter is not ready for yet, which the story makes more and more apparent. As Peter is entrusted with this great power, we see him as a regular, friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. It is not till he tries to be like Iron Man or tries to be more than what Peter is ready for. At that point, it's where people start getting hurt, collateral damage ensues. It's not till when Peter gets the full capabilities of the suit that Tony made for him is when even more collateral damage happens. It's not till after the disaster on the boat where Peter realizes the unspoken thing about being a hero, about being Spider-Man. With great power comes great responsibility. In most superhero movies, we see a lot of collateral damage happen, but there is little consequence for the heroes afterward. Superhero films have started to go in this trend about talking about collateral damage and using it as a plot device, like Civil War, where collateral damage happens when fighting villains who initiate the fight. But it hits differently in Spider-Man Homecoming because it's Peter's fault. Peter is the reason why the collateral damage happens in the first place. This is especially evident in the boat incident, so that's why it hits harder, since Peter didn't stay in school like he was supposed to. Instead, he shows up, and the bad guys aren't caught, and people's lives are put in danger. This is the consequence of Peter's decision. Peter learns this lesson in his back and forth with Tony. He learns how much of a kid and how irresponsible he has been lately, and now, because of his irresponsibility, he has to return the suit. The great power that Peter believes is what makes him Spider-Man. But it's not till the suit is gone that Peter is now given the right tools, the right motivation, and the right atmosphere to learn what it truly means to be a hero and how to carry that responsibility. When Peter learns that the true identity of the Vulture is Liz's dad, and that the Vulture finds out that Peter is Spider-Man, the Vulture lets him off with a warning and lets him go to the dance with the girl of his dreams. But instead, Peter remembers what he said to Tony when they first met.
Look, when you can do the things that I can, but you don't, and then the bad things happen, they happen because of you.
He chooses to abandon the girl of his dreams to go and defeat the Vulture. He doesn't do it to prove himself. He doesn't do it to attain the title of the Avenger. He does it because he knows it's the right thing to do. And throughout the fight with the Vulture, he learns that the great power he thought was the suit wasn't it at all. He himself is that great power. He is Spider-Man. It's not till the battle with the Vulture is over that we see Peter reflect on the lesson that he has just learned, and the dual meaning of, with great power comes great responsibility. Those dual meanings being one, that when you have great power, you have to have great responsibility for how you use it. And the other one being that when you have great power, you have a great responsibility to protect those who can't protect themselves. But Peter still hasn't figured out where the gray area of where he operates. He still hasn't found out where his responsibility lies. It's not till he talks with Tony and sees the Iron Spider suit that his responsibility isn't at the Avengers level. It's more of a neighborhood level. And in this realization, he turns down the offer to be the next Avenger, to be the Iron Spider, to be the next Iron Man. Something that Peter has wanted for so long, but has grown up to be something more than an Avenger, to be Spider-Man. Most Spider-Man films focus on an adult Spider-Man dealing with very dramatic and suspenseful problems. Spider-Man Homecoming takes on a younger Spider-Man and gives him a character origin story than a thematic one. We see Peter become Spider-Man on the inside, when most Spider-Man stories focus on him getting his powers or the suit. This movie shows that being Spider-Man is more of an ideology than the materials that make him, and leaves Spider-Man open to more adventures expanding his character to become the hero that is the greatest of them all. Now, to end on something controversial. Tom Holland is a better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire.
Where to begin? Ah, yes. Concerning Hobbit.